Welcome, beautiful people around the world, to this first session of our mentorship and soft skills workshop for WICCI. What does that mean? We are a group of people that are trying to help each other get through life. Have you ever had it where you're being in a place where you may be just feeling, life's tough. How am I going to get through this? How do I get through that next moment? Would you love to be in a place where you could get up each day knowing that you have the skills to get through life, knowing that you have the resilience to get through anything that comes your way? That's what these workshops are about. And today, this group is called the Empathy Group. Again, what does that mean? Empathy. You know those times where we are in that dark place that we're talking about? How today's topic is going to be, how do we get confident in our own skin? How do we really get confident? How do we get to a place where, well, actually, have you ever had it where you have been, okay, this is a personal one to me. I've been in a relationship. I didn't feel good enough. I felt like I had to be someone else for that relationship to work. I had to bend over backwards. I had to just appease everything that that person wanted because he wouldn't really like me if he knew who I was. Ever had it? You may have had it at work where you're trying to be something else because if they really knew who you were, then maybe they wouldn't like you and you wouldn't be good enough. And today's workshop is about asking some amazing women around the world. These ladies are educated, professional, they've got so many skills behind them, but the biggest skill that each and every one of them has is the life lessons of Life University. And that's why we're here to pick their brains on this subject, in the hope that at least one of you, if not all of you, can take a nugget today, take a nugget that will help you in your life to be really, really who you are, to connect with that soul inside and shine in this world. Because you know what? You are beautiful, but how do we get confident to shine that out to the world? Let's go. Let's go to these beautiful people around the world, and they really are around the world. So we're going to start with Sinjini. Sinjini, I'm coming to you. I'm at a stage where I'm feeling not good enough. You know, if they really knew who I was, they wouldn't like me. How do I become more confident? How do I be confident in being me and be confident in this skin? Over to you.
Thank you, Susan, for asking that. And I wondered if I'm really an expert to do that. I have been in that situation a long time in my life, and I don't know. We are all work in progress, only recovering, I can say for myself. A number of things. First, we have been brought up on a certain portrayal of success and confidence, that a certain color of dress, this is the party look, this is the social look, this is the office look, this is the professional look. What is my look? I feel that we need to, what we can do as an ecosystem and what we can do as ourselves are two questions which lead to the same end point. We have to have a middle ground. The first thing I would do for myself is something I am on my way, which is a lot of inner work to just understand that it's okay. I'm okay. And it takes so much work. I mean, it is never ending, because at office, I had to pretend like I don't have a baby. At home, when I came home, I had to pretend like I don't have a job stress. As a wife, I have to pretend something. As a daughter, I have to pretend something. As a pedestrian, I have to pretend something. So that is what work and life and environment expects from us. We lose ourselves in the process. We have had many discourses around it. So that is all we can do from our own skin. I did one small tiny thing, which I also shared with you at some point in time. On my mirror, I have actually etched this word, I am enough. But again, after a while, with some little more inner work, you realize that even that enough isn't enough. I am who I am. I am. I think, you know, be. That's a big thing. Sylvia Plath to quote her, I am. But that's a very long journey. That's even for people who say this, I wonder, I doubt how much they believe it. I am not there as yet. As an ecosystem, what we can do is Stop this portrayal, peel that image from the mirror and show us ourselves first and see others for who we are. I feel it is an innate human need for us to be seen for who we are, to be heard for who we are. And once we start doing that ourselves, we also start to empathize. We start to see others for who they are. That person who cut me through in the traffic, maybe he's going for a job interview and his life depends on it and he's running late. That person who, who did something, he has his story, she has her story. Maybe somebody is ill at home. I think it all starts with empathy, and once we are, we are. It is what it is. I am what I am. You are what we are. And it is a long work. No one answer to it. I hope I have been able to do justice to your question a little bit.
That's brilliant. I have one question for you. Would you say you are at a stage where you know who you are?
No, not by a long shot. I just know this moment now. I'm trying to be present with you in this moment and take everything in that the screen presents to me. Nothing beyond, no. Sorry.
Actually, another question is, do we really need to know who we are? That'd be another question that I'll come to and ask you. And what do you think on that? Do you really need to know, or is it enough to know in this moment and just live in this moment?
You ask a very big question, Susan, and I'm very glad you brought this up, even though I'm sure you know, none of us know that. I think we are all seeing the elephant like a blind man, parable. Looking at the trunk and seeing the elephant is a trunk, looking at the tusk and thinking the elephant is the tusk, looking at the tail and imagining that the elephant is one thin rope. We are bigger than that. If I may, close this and, pass this on with a small quote from Rumi. Don't play small. You are the universe in ecstatic motion. What we see in the mirror is just small. We are the universe in ecstatic motion.
There you go. Shall we end it here? Because that's a great one. I love that. Thank you so much, Sinjini. Let's go across to Ratna, who I think is in Germany.
Yes.
I know you're on travels. So over to you, Ratna. Let me know your thoughts on this subject.
Yeah, thank you, Susan. Getting confident under your own skin. Well, our skin changes all the time. And what we tend to do is put people in a box of this is who defines us when we're a child, when we're an adolescent, when we're an adult, even adult going through your 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s. Going back to your point about who are you in this moment is so big, but we don't allow anyone to have their moment. The last few days I've been doing a little bit more digging about myself, and I went back, and one of the stories I shared this week was I had a defining moment, but I wasn't even allowed to be in that moment. So how do you know what your skin actually is? But on the other hand, I had someone put a really good kudos out to me late last week. And one of the parts was, I look back, you reflect, and I just said, I'm just being me. I'm just being me, because that actually brings a bit of peace. So what does that mean? I'm just being me. I have a job where I inspire a lot of people. I have to influence a lot of people. I'm the eldest of 4 children, and that comes with its responsibilities as you see them at that moment in time. But were they ever really a responsibility? Is that something I took on myself? And one of the things I said, I'm just being me. So what does that mean? In simple terms, for me, instead of being shaped into who else we need to be, do the basic human things. Be kind, be loving, be compassionate. If we can keep those simple, could we go so far wrong? And the most humbling part is we become more confident in our own skin by being inspired by other people, because your skin grows while you're in this, I think as Sinjini said, like in an ecosystem, your skin grows in that ecosystem with activities that you do in your life, people that you meet in your life. You can't do your full inner work, I think, without knowing how other people influence and shape you. because what they're touching on all the time is pressing that button of, that's not my value. Actually, you know what? I love that value about another person. And then it's about, how do you stay with like-minded people that make you feel good under your skin also? So it's okay that you have someone who makes you feel good under your skin. It's equally important that you meet people who don't make you feel good under your skin, because that's how you start solidifying who you actually think you are and can be as well.
That's great. And isn't it so much easier at times to know what you don't want and what you are not standing for? Because when that conflict comes with someone else, it's so easy to know, I ain't doing that and I'm not doing that and I don't want that in my life. But I love what you say about the values. What are your values? If you can even know what your values are, you can start to really ascertain of, who am I as a person? Who am I? Yeah, I love that. Thank you so much, Ratna.
Okay.
Going over to Siobhan, who's in Manchester.
Yeah.
Let us know your thoughts.
I think kind of a couple of things that sort of like both Sanjina before and Ratna have said have kind of echoed with me. And one of the things that I think is partly I've become more confident as I've got older, because I think just some of getting older is, I ain't having that now. I've been through that. I've done that. I'm not going to stand for that. Or knowing what you want and what you don't want, I think comes a little bit more sort of like just living life, doesn't it? That's just sort of like experience. So I'd say I'm much more confident in my skin now than I was when I was 20. But probably if you knew me when I was 20, as people on this call do, I probably appeared more confident because I was like putting it out there, like I was fine and everything was like, but underneath I was doing that sort of like swan thing, you know, where you're swimming really hard trying to look serene on the outside. And one of the things I've learned is sometimes actually kind of put your vulnerabilities out there. So if something's not really that comfortable, say it. You know, when I was 20, I'd never have said that, because I would have thought, oh, by appearing to be vulnerable and by appearing not to know something, everybody will think that I can't do what I'm here to do, I can't do my job, I don't know what I'm talking about. There are times now when I don't know what I'm talking about, but I'll be quite happy to say I've absolutely no idea. I'll either find out, or can you tell me, can you educate me, where do I find this information? And I think that's about saying, being confident enough to go, it's all right not to know everything. You don't have to know everything. You know, 30 years ago I thought you did, because otherwise people wouldn't take you seriously. And what I've realized is it's the absolute opposite. It's people, if you're honest and open and you say, I don't know that, or I don't know how to do that, people take you much more seriously than you know, trying to pretend that you did. And the other thing that I've kind of like learned is, there are people in my sort of like, particularly in my working career, that I've really admired, that have a way of saying things. And so for a long time, I thought I need to learn how to say things like that. So for example, I have somebody that I work with, and whenever she says something really awful, she makes it sound like she's just paid somebody the best compliment in the world. That's her skill. That's how she does it. So for a while I thought, I'm going to try that. And I tried it on a couple of times at work when you're having like a difficult conversation with somebody. And while the words were coming out of my mouth, I was sitting there thinking, if I was on the receiving end of this, I would think this was so insincere, because it didn't sound like me. I was striving to sound like someone else. And I, even in my own head, I could hear it and think, this sounds really disingenuous. It sounds false. It sounds, you know, like contrived. So now I say to people, if I've got a difficult conversation to say, I tell them who I am first, and I say, I'm not one of those people who's really good at wrapping this up all beautifully. I'm not one of those people who's really good at making this sound really like lovely. So what I'm going to do is, I'm just going to say it how it is. It's not personal, it's just me, and it's just my method of communicating. I'm going to say exactly how it is. And no one has ever given me bad feedback on that. Everyone has said since then, thank you for that, thank you for being honest. I'm really grateful that you were honest about that. It actually made it easier, because sometimes when you're doing that thing of like leading, you're sitting there, aren't you, thinking, in a minute she's going to say something rubbish, in a minute she's going to say something awful, she's just saying all these nice things to lead me into saying the awful thing. I just get the awful thing said, say it, that's the thing. And I think that having that sort of like confidence now to say, this is how I say things, this is how I'm not trying to hurt you, I'm not trying to be disrespectful, this is just my way. And sometimes I'll kind of preface it with, like a little bit of self-deprecation, I'll go, it's my communication skills that aren't the greatest thing. And then that gives the other person then the sort of like lead in to say, okay, that's okay for me not to have the greatest communication about this. So I think for me, the biggest thing that I've learned is you don't have to know everything and you don't have to be someone else. Just, you know, it really is being true to who you are, and that's it. That's the best that you can be. You can't be, and you know, I look at some people and think, oh wow, they've got really good communication skills, they put that really well. That's them.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. It's honesty, being authentic, and being vulnerable. And all of those things, I mean, Brené Brown will say about vulnerability if no one's caught up with her, but it's kind of becoming that means that you get that connection with other people. Because if you say that, suddenly they're like, oh, I'm not as intimidated anymore. She's in that senior role, or she's in that, and she doesn't know. Oh, maybe I can express what I really know and don't know. But I love the honesty, the authenticity. And I like that through experience, you've learned to put that, just put it on the table first. This is how you're going to be communicating. People know what they're in for. Yeah. That's a skill perhaps even out of the workplace that you could, that I love that. Thank you. So over to Rekha, sitting in Manchester as well.
Yeah.
Give us your ideas and thoughts on this topic.
Thank you, Susan, and thanks to the panel so far. It's really intriguing. I think for me, confidence in your own skin is much of what the panel's already said around that patience, that understanding. We're not a completed book. I haven't had every chapter of my life written. I don't want it written. I want it to be exciting and full of turbulence and joy. So I do take on what the panel has said and that life lesson that Siobhan's just talked about. I think confident for me in your own skin is understanding your own internal thoughts and behaviours. It's about saying and learning and mastering, and this is why we're not the completed book, but you know, like Sinjini said, if somebody's angry in the car, have we got the tolerance and patience within ourselves, our own internal empathy sort of resources to say, actually, yeah, they probably were rushing for a job interview, or they're just grumpy. It takes a lot of internal energy to become a master of your own internal empathetic journey. By doing so, it not only gives you that confidence, but it allows you to be empathetic to others. Now, from personal experiences, having done NLP practitioner, done psychotherapy, I will be honest, that mastery journey, it is not easy. As a naturally confident but slightly stubborn, or as I call it, tenacious and ambitious person, some of those internal learnings would go against my grain. So I've had to learn to master the art of being more patient and thinking, actually, that could be this. Now, one of the flip sides of learning and developing ourselves is people perceive you to be different. So an example is when I started my journey about 10, 15 years ago, I started to feel like an internal empowerment of being okay with okay. Very small words, but very, very powerful. And an example was, there was a scenario where it was a heated discussion, and naturally, people turned to me and expected me to mediate, me to jump in. Oh, you shouldn't say this. And what I decided in that instance was, in order to change their behaviour, I had to change my own. So as I changed my own behaviour, that outcome of that scenario was different. But actually, in some ways, they turned on me and said, well, what's up with you? You've lost your spark. Why are you not doing this? What? So in that mastery, I had to then counterbalance that experience, not to default to my natural position and keep on that mastery journey. Self-confidence is also about knowing I'm okay with what I've just said. It's how I feel in the moment. We put so much pressure on ourselves as professionals, as mums, as dads, as sisters, as brothers, as family members, as friends, to say, I must behave as such because that's what that person needs. If you want to feel aggrieved or angry about something, let your body have it. Don't deny it. Carrying it throughout your life is more detrimental to our own internal emotions and journeys, which doesn't give us confidence in our skins, because it's compounding our ability to be, as somebody said on the panel, I think it was Sanjini or Ratna, be who you want to be. Such simplistic words, and in a world where often you can get people who can really understand those simple words, or some who will stand in judgment of them, is another thing that you're constantly aware of. So again, it retracts that ability to be confident in your own skin, because you think, oh, it's all too much hard work, this, I'll just conform. No, it's not about that. Stop, take a deep breath, look at yourself and think, this is my journey. I haven't got it quite right at this moment. That's okay. I don't feel happy with this. That's okay too. But that one behaviour in that one moment does not define me. My confidence in myself is an amalgamation of the journey I've travelled, the steps I've taken. And a great way to do that is to share that with people and be prepared that not everyone is ready to receive that information with their heart or their mind, because they're on their own journey. But I think we have a humanitarian responsibility and duty of care to give kindness in a way that suits you. So Siobhan said, I think what she's just described is giving kindness. She's been considerate of another person in a fashion that she might think is more harsher than somebody else, but actually I'm perceiving that just on this panel as kindness, and it's about where I perceive information. So true confidence in your own skin, whether that be in the physical being or within the sense of your own mindset, comes from those journeys. And it's about mastery of self. And there is no race. We will all finish, but we don't have to win. And that for me is about being confident in your own skin. I think that's what I want to say. Really.
That's awesome. So I'm going to ask you another question on this, because I love what you said. And I love the fact you're saying, you know, be confident in, even if you've said something out of anger or said something out of, you know, the way you've said it. And I know many of us, I don't know about many of us, I know about me, sometimes I can beat myself up if I've said something in a little bit of way. But I would put out to you, and I've noticed this about myself, is sometimes I don't do that because I'm scared that the love will be taken away. Yeah. So if I've been in a situation, just let's say it for parents or even a relationship, I won't rock the boat and I won't tell them exactly as it is until it's right far down the line. When you're in the relationship, because too many times that love was taken away and it hurt. Yeah. So what would you say to somebody who's in that position? How do you get the confidence to be like, other than age,
yeah,
to be like, have it, this is what's happening?
So for my advice to that person or whoever that person may be in that experience is, in those moments, you conducted yourself the best way you could. You had the most resources to deliver the best behaviour and emotion you could in that moment. Whether that was to hold back or to go for it, it's okay. It was in that moment. And what I would say in that situation, if that behaviour is repeated, be aware of self-talk and try and challenge that internal, because the evidence you have to prove to yourself about the love being taken, as you said, parents, where's the evidence of that? Because if it's a relationship, it's a defined experience. If it's more long-term relationships like families and stuff, where is the evidence that love's, that experience with that relationship is spilling in to a very, very strong foundation of who you are? And that is where we lose our confidence, because we're allowing that experience to then bleed into something that's much stronger, and we're starting to blur the lines. It's about separation of experience. You behaved with good intent in that situation and it didn't work. That's okay. That's not that you're a bad person. You know, this is always going to happen to you. But the finite point there is, you've connected love with parents and love in a relationship. They are two separate vehicles that travel at the same time, but because they're connected by the same emotions, we do bleed into that, and then we start to think that will happen here. So that behavior transcends, and this is what I'm saying, it takes a lot of energy and a lot of time to do self-talk and internal work on finding that confidence to go, okay, that relationship didn't work. There was all these counter sort of points that made it work or not work, but actually, where's the evidence that that's going to happen in this situation? What you can do is learn over time, and there's plenty of things you can develop in terms of techniques to say, I define that as that experience in my timeline of my journey. This one is still moving. So if I do have the odd clash with family members, they aren't going to take the love away. What that experience is doing is weighing you down. And those emotions are bleeding in to something that you don't have evidence for. And those are the key things that I would say to that person.
That's interesting. I think we could do another whole session on this one. But I'll come back to you on it. I'll come back to it. Thank you so much for sharing.
Thanks, Susan.
And we're going to go to Marsh, who's sitting in India, I believe. Are you in India? Yeah. Oh, you're on mute. Let's unmute you.
Yeah.
Well, I've got a couple of different things for yourself. I do definitely want to hear your thoughts on what we've been talking about so far. But another take on being confident in your own skin is, you know, a lot of us do end up having skin issues. And I'm going to give an example of, I definitely did, I know it probably looks polished on here, but I used to have, I had issues, right? But I didn't have, it wasn't crazy bad, but it was enough. And people can be so cruel. Yeah, people, again, it was relationships. They can be so cruel to the point they're saying, well, it detests me that your skin is like that. And I kind of think, you know, you're struggling with it anyway. Then you're trying to get it, and then it almost goes on a downward spiral. So I've got two questions from you. The reason being, if no one knows the background, is that you do a lot for skincare. But I'm going to let you go and explain that. So there's two elements: to be confident within ourselves in the skin as a metaphor, but also about the skin. I'd like to know your thoughts on that as well. So over to you, Harsh.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Suzanne. And yes, I stay in a place called Dhanbad, which is in the state of Jharkhand in India. I just use this because I need to say something. I was listening to others. And here I should point out that coming from a small place like Jharkhand, it was very difficult for me to be myself, be confident in my own skin. First of all, this is a place where it's like more of, it's absolutely male-dominated area of India, the eastern part of India. I'm not talking about Bengal and all, but this Bihar, Jharkhand is extremely male-dominated, and women are really looked down upon. And secondly, because I wanted to start my own business, that was one thing people were like, not at all liking the fact. They were not, I was just not allowed to be me. So by profession, I'm a network engineer, and there was a transition from IT to beauty. That's a different story. So, but taking the IT part, being a network engineer and coming from a place like Dhanbad, which is a coal capital of India, I wanted to actually work on automation of coal mines and all. And we don't have women in this field. There are people in ISM Indian School of Mines, Dhanbad, where people work as professors and all, but going into the mines and working there is something which is a taboo. And when I started doing that, I started taking up projects and all. Every time, I used to say something. People, all of them, being the only woman, all of them, trust me, the directors of other companies and all, they used to be after me. It was a mental torture. It was, even to submit a document was a mental trauma for me. I didn't know whatever I was writing was correct, in what way it is going to be taken, and how they're going to get back to me. But slowly I realized that there are two ways. Either it's my way or the highway. So that actually started giving me the confidence, because they went on pressurizing, they went on cornering me. There was a time when instead of a revolution, I evolved. There was evolution in me. And I decided what I think Rekha was saying, that it's absolutely okay not to be okay, but I'll be me. I will be me. I'll do the things the way I want it. And I'll put it that way. Let them do anything and I'll take it up as the time comes. So, I mean, it was very difficult to be confident to take on the work and do the work in a very proper manner, the way you want, you structure it, the way you want to do it. But slowly I learned it out and I learned it the hard way. And that actually helped me to build two of my enterprises. Now I have three companies running, three of my enterprises. And I really feel that the emotional intelligence and empathy is one of the most important aspect to understand people and be who you are and let others be who they are. Because as others said, that the situations in which they respond or react are totally different. At that moment, we try to be ourselves without realizing that what would be the outcome. Sometimes we just react to a situation. We don't think of the outcome because it hurts it might hurt our ego, or it might be just we don't want to think beyond that time and we just respond as per the need of that time. So, I mean, what I would say is that when we are ourselves, the onus is on us to take it forward the best way. The onus is totally on us. When we take up the responsibility, that is the best way to take the things forward. And when you are, for me, empathy is when somebody is making a mistake and you realize that person is making a mistake, and later you just have a talk with that person and say that this is not the way I wanted things to be done. So can you take a onus? Can you take the responsibility and do it in a better manner? That is what I have learned, because I was never given the opportunity to revise. I was put in a corner, but that actually helped me to learn and pass on my learning to others. And coming to that about the skin, being confident in your own skin, and the skin, the biggest sense organ of a body. I mean, the skin is a sense organ. All of us know it, but we don't realize it, isn't it? So what happens that we just take our skin for granted, and sometimes we think that whatever is there, it's okay. But trust me, the skin also needs the love and care. And sometimes we might have skin ailments that might not look good to the others. But how do we take care of our other sense organ? If you have a problem with your eye or the nose or the ears, what do you do? What do? You take care of that part of the body. So just take it as another sense organ. It's a sense organ. It's very sensitive. It needs that love and care. And you need to give that love and care to your sense organ to let it be beautiful and let it be, radiant. That does not mean, when I'm saying beautiful and radiant, does not mean a flawless skin or something. It means the skin, the sense organ you are having. Be proud of who you are. I might have a big scar here, but that's my life mark. That's a landmark I have. I mean, the way we find addresses and we say, oh, this is near that house, that big building, it's next to that big building. Okay, fine. My landmark is I have a scar here. So people can recognize me in a different way. So be confident in your own skin, whether it's a physical skin or it's being confident in who you are. That's what I would like to say. And for me is letting others also be confident in their own skin, the way they want to be, absolutely them.
That's beautiful. Thank you so much. Oh gosh, you know what? You girls are just incredible. And I've certainly learnt loads on this call. I'm just going to share some of my experiences of my thoughts on this topic as well. Because this has been a massive topic, I think, for me. And even recently, I mean, I've probably been working on this forever and I didn't even know. And it's only in since lockdown, that I really feel like I'm starting to develop, who am I? What am I? And what do I stand for? And what do I like? you know, not what everyone else likes, or this would look good because they said it looked good. And it's little bit steps, but I really am taking what Mosh said about, you know, being loving and kind to yourself. So many years you hear, isn't it? Love yourself. It's just about loving yourself. You know, I love myself. I love myself. You do the affirmation, but it doesn't go in. And the fear that I talked about earlier, you know, the fear of being your true authentic self, because people will leave you and people won't accept it and they'll go and they won't think of you as a good person. So what I've learned is really, at the end of the day, my lessons for this year really has been, what really is there? Yeah. Your life can get stripped to pieces. Your job can go, your relationships can go, your family can go. But what is left? And what I realize is we can only I'm going to talk about me, can be reliant, because what has looked after me this year is the air around me, the ground underneath me, the day and night that this is enclosed in. And there is nothing better than having faith in those things that keep you alive. Once you've got it, once you know there is nothing to be scared of, because as those things strip away, you are always looked after. If only we had the eyes to see it, if only we had the faith to believe it. And knowing, coming from that space, and I've been blessed this year to start realizing that, and coming from that space, I now realize that if someone's coming into my life and they're not acting the way I want them to, I now don't need them for love and company and this, that, the other, because you are truly looked after. So thank you for your blessings, and realize that if you're angry with me, that I can work on that and I can do the inner work, but you can go on your merry way because I don't need you anymore. I'm not reliant on other people to tell me I'm a good person. And that's probably been the best learning lesson of this year. I think up until this year, I've always been reliant on other people's opinion because I thought that was validating me, and it's not. I just totally believe that we are this soul in our bodies, whatever that is. My thoughts have been running riot for 40 odd years. And suddenly it's kind of like, if you can just see that the thoughts are not you, you are something way, way beyond. So that's where I'm coming from on it. And once you tap into that, I just feel like it doesn't matter what anyone thinks of you. You can come on here and be stupid, put your arms up and do anything, because it doesn't matter. You know, come criticize and go. But again, I love everything that everyone has said on here, because Sanjini, I totally believe that we are that tiny little bit in this massive universe. And we can be anything we want to be. The elephant's trunk, the elephant's leg. You know, I just love how you put that into that little perspective, or massive perspective. Ratna, what are our core values? What is it that we really want to take forward? Because once you start knowing what your values are, you start to know who you are, and you really know what you aren't when people are coming and conflicting with you. Siobhan, when you tell us about, you know, become vulnerable, become honest, because that's how we're connecting. And be authentic, because people will respect it. Whether you're looking for that or not, they will start to respect that. Rekha, the inner work, that's such a massive journey. And I totally believe that it is about the inner work. If you can start going inwards, you can't change these people around you. Well, maybe you can, but that's not your role, is it? Your role is to look in here and how do I become peaceful and joy by working on me? And Mosh, love it. Just the highway, my way or the highway, just, you know, I can almost imagine you with guns going, bam, let's get out. But also how to be just loving, kind to your skin. But I think it's about loving and kind to every part of us, because we are really, really, we're just beautiful. Every single one of you today. Thank you so much for joining in and sharing. I will open up the panel. Is there anything anyone wants to just add, just to round this up? You girls.
I was just going to say what I noticed when I talked on this panel, and what I talked to when you talk to other people about it, particularly women. The thing that we spend the most time on that knocks our confidence is the single thing that we have no control over. And we spend so much time thinking about what other people think about us and what other people think about this and what other people think about that. And one of the realizations for me was when I started working in a therapeutic background was, you're responsible for what you think. You're not responsible for what anybody else thinks. So we spend so much time worrying about and bothering about a thing that we absolutely 100% cannot control. We can't control what other people think. So I think for me, it's that kind of realization that if you want to control something, you can control you. And the way you put yourself out there, and as long as you're talking with kindness and you're talking with respect, you're not responsible for how that person hears that and how that person receives that and what that person does with that. So my kind of thing, that probably the most thing that I've learned from working in a therapeutic background is I can control me. And as long as I'm working with kindness and respect, I can't control whatever else anybody else thinks about that.
100%. You can't control their anger, but you can control how you react to it. 100%. I totally agree with that. Anybody else?
I would just say, from an empathetic point of view, how do we become empathetic with ourselves and with other people? Also, is knowing. I think some of the ladies on this panel picked it up already. Anyhow, is I do a lot of human factors from a risk basis. Okay, and if we go to true human factors, you have this thing. Does somebody do this intentionally or unintentionally? Humans don't really do things intentionally. It's because they have a story that makes them do things intentionally in our eyes, but sometimes they're not aware that they're even doing that as well. And when you understand that everybody has a story, their actions are an accumulation of things that have happened to them as well, and how we react to them, like many people have said on this call, it's actually building the strong core of you. And as you get stronger, your skin, your inner being starts getting more confident. But every single human being, even an animal, everything has a story. And we have to grow bigger to be able to do that and help other people by becoming empathetic as well. And that allows us to be empathetic to ourselves, because like I said, they can hit a core which makes us feel uncomfortable. But by being that uncomfortable, you take away the layers of all the noise that's surrounding our minds, in our lives, to really learn who you are. And that is only a journey. It's only in that moment.
For sure. Thank you so much. All right, we've got 1 minute. I'm coming round to each and every one of you. Let me know one thing that you're going to take from today's session and apply to your life. All right, I will start. I am totally, I mean, there's so many things, but the biggest thing I'm really taking from it is I love my skin. I love me. So I want to follow that every day going forward. So over to Sinjini, give me one thing.
I think I will try to harp on something that Ratna said passingly before she moved on to say the main thing she said, which is that our skin isn't permanent. It's changing all the time. Impermanence is a big thing. I mean, frankly, we take ourselves way too seriously, whether we are confident, whether we are not confident, whether this is the right thing to do, whether what other people are thinking about us. I think we have to learn to just get loose a little bit.
I love that.
Yeah,
I love that. Ratna, give us one thing.
I think for me, especially what Rekha said, you have love, and don't let your experience of love transcend into other things that you do in your life, relationships or anything like that.
That's so true. Siobhan?
I think it's kind of like looking at the bigger picture when Sinjini was saying, is this the elephant's tusk? Is this the elephant's tail? Is this the elephant's trunk? It's kind of like sometimes we focus really on that tiny little bit, and there's a whole massive thing that's surrounding it, and it's often that little thing that gets to us. So if we take that step back and look at it from a bigger perspective, not only kind to us, it's kind to everybody around us as well.
Perfect. Thank you. Rekha?
I think I've learned a lot from people, but I think what I'd like to actually give back to this call and anyone listening around the world, whether that be a young woman, young man, whoever, you know, older, is just take a moment to think. You've arrived at this moment listening to this call. You've walked many, many steps and you've done a good job. All you need to do is take the next step by learning and embracing the fact that you aren't complete and that you are growing. So no pressure, no social construct. As Sanjini said, the universe is big and I'm a tiny being in that. So don't place the pressure on anyone. So I would think we would give a gift from this call to anyone who's listening, because life is about learning and we don't stop.
Love that. Thank you. And Marsh, give us unmute yourself as well. Oh, that's fine.
Yeah. So for me, it's actually the parable that Sanjini used about the elephant for me. It's people look at us. I mean, people can perceive us in different ways. Some may think that it's a trunk. Some may think I'm a tail. Some may think I'm just the ear, but I am who I am. So it's being confident. And that is what counts. And this is what I have learned from whatever you all have shared today. Just go on loving yourself. This is what I have learned.
Thank you so much to each and every one of you. Go out there, people, just love yourself and start being confident in your own skin.